Hello, I am Ryan Weinsheimer, and I will be talking to you about non-traditional students and their great advantage. First, it's important to understand the importance of getting your degree. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, by earning a degree, you automatically give yourself the opportunity to apply for 46% of the U.S. jobs that now require a secondary degree. The Bureau also claims that by having an associate's degree, you will be 30% less likely to be unemployed. By earning your bachelor's or master's degree, they state that 48 to 56% you will be less likely to be unemployed. And if that's not convincing enough, for every degree you get, it's about an average of $20,000 pay rate increase. There are basically two types of students. First, there are what most people do is traditional students. Around 70% of high school graduates enroll directly into college. There are some that believe that these students will be able to get the most out of their education due to their age. This means that they will be able to get into their desired field at an earlier age. There is also the argument that recent high school graduates have learning as part of their daily pattern. Moving directly into higher education will allow them to continue this pattern. Students who choose not to continue schooling after high school have the opportunity to get out of the pattern of including scholastics into their daily life. Some also argue that it can act as a segue into adult living. Going away to college gives students their first experience of independence. Most colleges have a set of guidance and rules for students to follow, but these rules are not as stringent as the expectations that some of their parents may have. This transition will allow the younger students to make mistakes and still have a support system. But what about the other 30% of high school graduates? After graduating, some of them will enter the workforce, whether full-time or part-time. Some of them start a family, get married, have children, and some of them take some time off to have the adventures that they may not have been able to have as a high school student. But some of them feel that a college education is still important. These students that go back and enroll into a secondary school are called non-traditional students. The most common factor that is determined factor of a non-traditional student is age. This would be someone who enrolls in school after the age of 25. It can also be determined by responsibilities outside of age. An example of this would be a student who is working full-time and going to school part-time. In this case, age does not matter. They can be 19, they can be 20, but as long as full-time work is their main focus, then they would be a non-traditional student. Another example that is ageless would be someone who is a parent. With all of that being said, there's obviously advantages and disadvantages for both of these students, but which one really does have the greater advantage? Non-traditional students do. Non-traditional students have the desire, due to their responsibilities, have experiences because of living life more, and they also have careers and possibly advantages that go along with those careers. So first was desire. As I stated, most of these non-traditional students have some sense of responsibility that they're already locked down into. And there's some kind of sacrifice that's associated with these responsibilities. The first example of this would be a parent. A parent's first priority would be their child, and the second would be school. So they would have to have a lot of sacrifices associated with caring for a child first and then having school second. They would have lots of late nights staying up. They would also act as a role model to their child, which would also be a driver and create a desire for them to want to complete their schooling. Another example would be somebody who works full-time. Working anywhere from 40 to 60 hours a week can lead to lots of sacrifices. Sacrifices of sleep, possibly hours of availability. And much like parents, they don't want to go through all this and not have something to show for it. So there's that additional drive and additional desire to get their degree. Next is experience. Genevieve Morgan conducted a TED Talk in 2015. In this TED Talk, she talks about how an employer really doesn't matter when you got your degree. You can get your degree at 22 or you can get your degree at 40. And it doesn't matter to an employer when you got your degree. She also talks about how kids who tend to take time off after graduating graduate with a GPA of 1 point to 1.5 points higher than kids who don't take the time off. She also jokingly talks about avoiding what she likes to call the 4 C's, which is cradle to college to carpool to casket plan. The 4 C's seem to indicate that those who go directly into higher education after high school never get to experience life. Having the break in the so-called standard process has allowed the non-traditional student to experience parts of life that a younger age student might not have gotten the chance to experience. Next is Kelly Morris. Kelly Morris is the head of marketing of Fitchburg State University. She states that studies show that adults learn quicker because they can draw immediately upon multiple life experience to make theories and new skills applicable. Most have experienced the highs and lows in their careers, which are lessons that cannot be taught in the classroom. You're already in the real world, and your life or work experience will make your lesson more valuable. The content that you are learning is no longer theoretical. Instead of saying, this is how I would do it, you can say, this is how I have done it. Then there are also universities who also see the advantages of adult learners. In fact, Penn State has a course in their World Campus, which is, I believe, their online version of a degree. And in that course, they have a course that is about adult learners, and in that course, they state that adult learners vary from each other as learners in terms of age and experience, much more than traditional age learners. Such differences can be used as a powerful resource for adult learning. Through collaboration in small groups, adults can benefit from their variety of experience. This shows that adult learners' experiences add a bigger wealth to the class, not only to themselves, but also to the others around them. The next thing I mentioned was career. So as mentioned before, most of these, a good chunk of these non-traditional students have been working full-time or have been working part-time of some sort. And some of them, the first category would be somebody who is looking for a career change. More than likely, this student is looking at the big picture. There was a study done in the UK where interviews were conducted with non-traditional students, and it stated that there were perhaps rather more individuals who saw gaining a degree or other qualifications as a passport to better employment, not just better pay, but a more rewarding and satisfying work. For some, it has represented a complete change in direction. In some cases, it was perceived as a route out of unemployment or poverty. This shows that this person doesn't really want the career or the job that they already have. They want something more for themselves, and sometimes it's not more money, sometimes it's just more rewarding and a better quality of life. Next is going for a promotion. An example of this is someone who already has a career. There are many companies out there that you can gain employment straight out of high school. An example of that is Wawa. They have opportunities ranging from customer service associate, better known as a CSA, up to assistant general manager, better known as an AGM. And in their job requirements, there is nowhere that it says that a degree is preferred. However, when looking at the requirements for anything above CSA, it does say that they would like to see some kind of leadership skills or some kind of experience being a leader. But if a high school graduate were to get a job as a CSA, they would be able to work their way up the ladder without ever having to obtain their degree. Once they get up to a point of assistant general manager, they would then have to start working towards their career. This would act as a driver and a motivation that would allow them to actually want this degree. It would also give them the knowledge to know exactly what they want their degree to be in, instead of going and getting a generalized degree as far as business or organizational skills or anything like that. If they were to, for instance, if we were to just keep with the Wawa example, they would know they would have to go into food service management of some sort. Also, some of these companies, much like Wawa, have company advantages. For example, Wawa does have something called tuition reimbursement. This plan allows a non-traditional student to attend school and to get reimbursed for classes up to $52.50 a year, as long as they get a C or higher in the class. If the student is willing to take their time, they could actually get through school without ever having any type of student debt whatsoever. But once again, as I stated earlier, there are sacrifices associated with this, which also causes a driver. So as I stated before, non-traditional students is a path that some choose to take. Some go directly into their workforce and start a family and take the time to have the experiences they may not be able to do. Some of those people still see the benefits of going back to school. These students are referred to as non-traditional. Although the decision to go back to school can be daunting, it can also be said that there are lots of benefits to this. They are able to apply their drive due to sacrifices, their experiences due to life, and the ability to know what they want out of their career into being able to get the degree that they actually want and need. Thank you very much.